Right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. And as I am in the midst of talking about the upcoming college football season, today I want to talk about the American Conference and, of course, formerly the American Athletic Conference. Nonetheless, um, this league was right on the brink of getting a representative into the college football playoff. Boise State beat out Army for that automatic bid from the group of five, but nonetheless, I truly do think that the American is going to be once again formidable as far as the league goes for this college football season. We saw Army go undefeated in that league. Tulane went 7-1, and then both Navy and Memphis went 6-2, with both Army and Memphis finishing the season ranked in the top 25. And I think once again, we're going to see a battle for that league. Now, one team that I didn't mention as far as having that type of success in 2024, but I do expect them to be more successful in 2025. That is the Roadrunners of the University of Texas San Antonio. And of course, I think they can be very dangerous this year in the American. You've got junior quarterback Owen McCown, who, in my opinion, could be one of the better signal callers in the American this year. You got senior running back Robert Henry Jr., as well as junior tight end Houston Thomas, as far as some skill guys to keep an eye out for on offense. And then you have an experienced offensive line for UTSA. I'm talking about four seniors and one junior up front. But nonetheless, UTSA, they got to find a way to improve defensively. They were 71st in the nation in defense a year ago. They've only got four starters on defense. So that's going to be big for them right now. But like I said, I still like their chances in the American. Very interesting out of conference schedule. They host Texas State out of the Sun Belt on the 6th of September. They're at Colorado State out of the Mountain West on this September 20th. Of course, two schools that will be going to the Pac-12 next year. They host Tulane. Could be a big game on the 30th of October. And then they host Army on the 28th of November. And I think that game against Army could go a very long way in determining who gets to the conference championship game. Another team that I expect to be in the mix to win the American, and that is the Tigers of Memphis. They're looking to try to win this league for the first time since 2019. They only had they only had two losses within the conference a year ago. One was to Navy, and the other was to UTSA. Okay, both were on the road. You got to try to replace Seth Hennigan at quarterback, which is not going to be easy. But Memphis is looking to the well-traveled Brandon Lewis, who previously played at both Colorado and Nevada. Senior running back Greg DeRosiers Jr. Three seniors on the offensive line for Memphis. That's going to be important. And then their defensive front, which includes defensive end William Whitlow Jr. I think the Tigers will be in the mix to contend for the American Championship. On September 20th, they host Arkansas out of the SEC. Two big conference games in November. Okay, on the 7th, they host Tulane. And then on the 27th, they host Navy. Then you have the defending conference champions, and I'm talking about the Army Black Knights, and they're looking to run it back as American champs. Senior quarterback Dwayne Coleman saw limited action behind Bryson Daly last year. And of course, we know how important Bryson Daly was to this triple option attack. And now it's going to be Dwayne Coleman's opportunity. One thing for Army last year, it was their first year in the American. Yes, we know the Navy's been there. They run the triple option attack, but they hadn't seen it as far as the conference goes. They hadn't seen it run the way that Jeff Monken's group does it. And I say this because Army had the top rushing attack in the nation last year. They were the only FBS school to average more than 300 yards on the ground. It's very difficult to stay with this team because you know what's coming, they know what's coming, but their opponents just have issues stopping it. I expect a heavy dose of the ground game for Army once again with senior backs Hayden Reed and Noah Short. And this was also an Army team that was eighth in the nation in defense last year. Keep an eye out for senior outside linebacker Andon Thomas, as well as senior middle linebacker Caleb Fortner. Strong safety Casey Larkin is also a senior to keep an eye out for. And as a whole, The Black Knights have 8 seniors starting defensively. On the 6th of September, they're in the Little Apple to take on K-State out of the Big 12. And then you look at this conference slate. They're at Tulane on the 18th of October. And of course, that's a rematch of last year's conference championship game. Sandwiched in between that, on the 1st of November, they're at Air Force. That game could come down to deciding the Commander in Chief's trophy. Then, of course, on November 28th at UTSA, huge game, in my opinion, with conference championship game ramifications. And then, of course, finishing with Navy on the 13th of December in Baltimore. And speaking of those aforementioned midshipmen, Brian Newberry and his Navy squad, they got to try to find a way, and they're looking to find a way to build off of last year's 10-win season. You've got senior quarterback Blake Horvath. You also have senior running back Eli Heidenreich. 3 seniors and 2 juniors up front on the offensive line for the midshipmen. And of course, just like it is with Army, Navy likes to run the football. Navy, like I said, they had a solid 10-win season last year. They're going to be right back in that mix. They host Air Force on the 4th of October. Of course, always when the service academies get together, it's always a special game. Navy is at Notre Dame on the 8th of November, and then they're at Memphis on the 27th of November. Another team that's right in that mix, you talk about Tulane. They're looking to make it 4 consecutive years as far as getting to the conference championship game. And of course, it was a seamless transition, if you will, for Tulane from Willie Fritz to John Sumrall as head coach. But the thing is, John Sumrall is really going to have his hands full this year. Why? He lost his quarterback in the transfer portal, Darian Mensah to Duke. And then, of course, he lost his running back, the phenomenal Mekhi Hughes, in the portal as well to Oregon. So now Arnold Barnes Jr., Arnold Barnes III, excuse me, the junior running back, steps in to try to fill the void that Hughes left at running back. And then former Ball State quarterback Caden Simonza is going to be the guy under center for the Green Wave. You look at senior outside linebacker Sam Howard for Tulane, as well as senior defensive tackle Cameron Hampton. They could have impacts big time for Tulane as they look to try to win the American once again. Overall, this Tulane defense features 7 seniors, and that experience is going to be tested. Tulane has a very hard out of conference schedule, which includes hosting Northwestern out of the Big Ten on the 30th of August, as well as traveling to Ole Miss on the 20th of September. But some key conference games for Tulane. On the 18th of October, they host Army. On the 30th of October, they're at UTSA in the Alamo Dome. And on the 7th of November, they're at Memphis. Now, East Carolina was one of those middle of the pack teams last year in the American. They won 5 out of their last 6 under interim head coach Blake Harrell last year. And of course, they're looking to build off of that as they want to try to be a player in the American. You've got junior quarterback Caton Hauser, sophomore running back Landon Montgomery, and there's only 1 senior on the offensive line for the Pirates. That could be a detriment for them. Also, defensively, keep an eye out for sophomore free safety Jamarly Riddle. For the Pirates, of course, when you think about them, their rivalry with NC State out of the ACC, they'll be at NC State in Raleigh on the 28th of August. On the 20th of September, East Carolina hosts BYU out of the Big 12. And then, of course, the meat and potato of their schedule in the American on the 9th of October. They're at Tulane. On the 15th of November, they host Memphis. And then a big one on the 22nd of November when they're at UTSA. You look at North Texas, and they lost 6 out of their last 7 to end 2024. But they're still trying to make it 5 bowl appearances in the last 6 years. One thing's for sure, their quarterback this year, Reese Poffenbarger, it's a scenario where he's a well-traveled because this is going to be his 4th different school. He's been at Old Dominion, Albany, and Miami, and now North Texas. Keep an eye out for sophomore running back Mackenzie McGill II. But nonetheless, for North Texas to have a chance to get to a bowl game this year, they've got to improve their defense. They were 128th in the nation last year, and 7 of their 13 opponents last year scored at least 37 points. which ain't good. You look at Rice. I think it would be important for Rice's program if they found a way to sneak into a bowl game, especially under new head coach Scott Abell. Junior running back Quentin Jackson is somebody to keep an eye out for. You got an offensive line full of seniors and juniors for the Owls. That's going to be big. Defensively, outside linebacker Ty Morris, as well as middle linebacker Andrew Ah. Rice could be in the mix as far as trying to get to a bowl game, like I said, which would be big for their program. I think Charlotte could be one of those teams that's on the cusp as far as getting to a bowl game as well. Tulsa, I don't know. I mean, Tulsa has basically become everybody's homecoming game once again. And you look at it, seven opponents scored at least 40 points on Tulsa last year, with three of them going for 59 or more. So defensively, Tulsa's going to have to improve if they're going to try to find a way to make some noise in this league. Temple, they got to try to find a way to get out of the basement in the American. They have themselves a new head coach in Casey Keeler, and I think he's going to bring intensity and energy, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to turn things around in Philadelphia for the Owls, especially with an offense that was 125th in the nation last year. And they failed to score 20 points at least six times. Okay. South Florida is another one of those teams that I think is once again going to be bringing up the rear. And the same thing could be said for Trent Dilfer and his UAB Blazers, as well as Florida Atlantic. Now, I know Florida Atlantic has themselves a new head coach in Zach Kitley, one of the youngest head coaches at the FBS level for this year at the ripe age of 33. But nonetheless, when it comes down to winning this division, or winning this conference rather, excuse me, I think it's going to be between UTSA, Memphis, Navy, and Army. I think those are the teams that are going to be in that mix to win the American this year. And honestly, when it's all said and done, I like UTSA and Army to get to the conference championship game this year. And when it's all said and done, I'm picking the Roadrunners of Texas San Antonio to win the American Athletic Conference for 2025. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. That is my projection for the American Athletic Conference, excuse me, American Conference for this upcoming season for college football. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. You can hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. And the same can be said for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, you can go ahead and continue to check me out for this month, as I'll be coming at you for basically the bulk of August, talking about the upcoming college football season. And for all of you football buffs, as soon as I'm done with college football, it will be NFL time, and I'll do the same thing, division by division breakdown, as well as my postseason projections. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can check us out at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.